UMG is suing Believe and TuneCore for $500 million.
iHeart goes through a massive restructuring and layoffs.
They're done. They lose something like that, they're done. DIYers, it was a crazy, crazy week. Yet another week full of massive layoffs in the music industry. The music industry is going through a very, very extreme change. But no news was bigger this week than UMG is suing Believe and the distributor TuneCore for $500 million. Why would they want to sue? It says Universal Music Group, along with ABCKCO Music and Records and Concord Music Group, filed a major copyright infringement lawsuit against Believe and its subsidiary, TuneCore, on Monday, November 4th, seeking damages of at least $500 million. To give you a little perspective, I went and talked to ChatGPT and I said, hey, bro, how much is Believe worth? And would a $500 lawsuit really hurt them? Here's what ChatGPT said with sources. She said a $500 million lawsuit could have a significant financial implications for Believe and its subsidiary, TuneCore. Given Believe's current marketing capitalization of approximately 1.48 billion euros, around $1.6 billion, such a lawsuit will represent a large percentage of their total value. $500 million lawsuit would be the equivalent to roughly 1/3 of Believe's market cap. We did a video a few weeks ago, right? And we were talking about how actually it was DeMizza, who's a very important voice when it comes to news in the music industry now. He brought up the idea that some of these labels that are already doing all of these massive layoffs, part of their plan to do these massive layoffs is to replace the distributors, the TuneCores, the distro kids, and such. So I think this is really interesting that now UMG, who's obviously been they've been hell-bent on trying to replace TikTok. I think it's interesting now that they are trying to sue TuneCore and Believe, or more so Believe, for 1/3 of what they damn well are worth. Do you know how much money that is for a business like this? Especially in an industry that's obviously hurting for money at this point in time, like many different businesses, but especially those dealing with the music industry. Shout out to Rob Abelow. He breaks down some of the details of why they're suing them. It says UMG is suing TuneCore and Believe for $500 million. The self-service music distro model for $20 a year may have a problem. That's what most of these distributors do, where you invest as an independent artist. You may put up $20 a year and it gives you the opportunity to upload your music unlimited for that year, right? That model is definitely going to be changing. Matter of fact, I saw that DistroKid's price went up earlier this year. He goes on to say in his thread, UMG is accusing TuneCore and parent company Believe of industrial scale copyright infringement for distributing sped up tracks and altered versions under BS names like Kendrick Lamar with 2 A's or Ariana Grande with 2 R's and an M. They contend they're well aware of the fraud. Now, this in itself, I can understand why UMG would want to sue. If there's people up here using names and really taking advantage of the search directory and some of these platforms, some of these streaming platforms, by having a name that probably falls right underneath Kendrick Lamar. And for those that are casually listening to music, you may see those 2 names and be like, oh, I didn't even know Kendrick Lamar had sped up versions that are out here. No, meanwhile, somebody out there has uploaded that without permission and has altered the master recordings they don't own to make income. For sure, I understand wanting to sue them for that. It's just, to me, the timing that is really interesting because, based upon the videos and stuff that we've covered, they have plans to make their money, right? These labels are not going to be aggressively signing TikTok stars and viral acts though anywhere near the way that they were before because they're not making their money on back. So instead, what they're choosing to do is become the new distributors so that I don't have to sign you independent artists to still get some of your money. As long as you're paying me that $20 a year, I get what I need from you. Matter of fact, I get more money based upon your success, your independent success. Distributors like TuneCore and DistroKid have long been the easy and cheap way for anyone to release music. $20 a year, all you can release, no questions asked. It's where those hundreds of millions of songs come from, many of which are never heard. But the industry is cracking down on this model, installing a minimum stream threshold. We saw Spotify do that. Fraud penalties for distributors, which I think Spotify was the first one to do that with DistroKid. And now $500 million lawsuits. They're done. They lose something like that, they're done. They are done. How can these platforms trust random uploaders? The days of anyone releasing onto any Spotify artist page could be close to over. So they're making it more difficult for just anyone to release their music. I know most artists are going to be like, cool, it gets rid of the bad actors. Don't forget they get to determine what a bad actor looks like. Don't forget, you're still pushing traffic. Even if you're not a large streaming artist, you're still pushing traffic to these platforms at the expense of the income you could be making if the music was on your website, if the music was in some kind of physical form, which you're going to talk about here, at the expense of a lot of things because you want to make sure that it's conveniently delivered to your fans who may not have access to you if one of these distributors get the hammer down on them and they're told, no. Actually, we're going to redefine who's an actual artist and we need to get rid of this chunk of independent artists. It's already happening. I got a DM before I jumped in here from an artist that said, thank you for the videos you're making, because first they said one of my songs had fictitious streams, and now they're saying the whole album is done. So they have their whole album removed. And for those who have worked on the album and know the work that goes into that, it's nasty work, nasty work, and it definitely hurts the creatives in the long run. Now, to give you more specifics, DistroKid. I've had a relationship with DistroKid before, and there was a point in time where I was distributing my music when my music was still on streaming platforms. I've since removed all of my music except for the last project I did, and that's possibly going to be the last project I do put on streaming. Right, everything right now is on curtisking.bandcamp.com as well as curtisking.com. Well, DistroKid didn't already have a large employee base, so 37 layoffs may not seem like a lot, but for a fairly small company in terms of the amount of people there and anybody who's ever dealt with the customer service and how much of a headache that can be being understaffed, you can imagine them laying off 37 union workers, which is even worse, could be just that much more problematic. Go watch the video by Weaver Beats. He has a really in-depth video that talks about how this was union busting and how this was actually really unfair to the workers that were trying to work out a deal with DistroKid, and they pulled this thing last minute. We're not even going to get into the details. I just want you to see all these layoffs that are happening. Well, it's not just affecting the distributors. It's now affecting the DSPs. Tidal, which is in dire need, this is from Engadget website, is in dire need of some good marketing, lays off its entire product marketing team. It says Jack Dorsey broke the news in a note to his employees. Good googly mo. Even big ass corporations like iHeart have had widespread layoffs at iHeart Media as music radio gets downsized. Yo, what's going on with all these layoffs? Why are they happening so close to one another? UMG had them earlier this year. RCA had some layoffs earlier this year. Shout out to Demiza. He gives some perspective specifically on this one about iHeart. And I want you to hear his perspective as we start to break down more.
Breaking news in what Ramp is calling the mother of them all. iHeart goes through a massive restructuring and layoffs. And we're not talking small markets and small things. We're talking about big markets and morning shows and senior VPs. Dallas, Patrick Davis, San Francisco, Don Parker, Philadelphia, the PD, Washington, D.C., the morning show, Houston, the night host, Raleigh, Salt Lake City, Seattle, Tampa. I mean, the list goes on and on.
By the way, get used to that term, restructuring.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Get used to that term, restructuring. These companies are gonna use that a whole lot, so it doesn't, so you don't connect that to people losing their livelihood by the hundreds.
Let's also remember that they lost almost $1 billion last quarter. The net profit margin was minus 26%. And for instance, in the second quarter of 2024, the company recorded an operating loss of $910 million.
God.
I mean, I can only imagine, but this is some massive restructuring going into the Christmas holiday season. I feel for all of those people. And, man, radio's got to evolve, and I hope they don't continue to make the bad decisions they already have.
what could all these layoffs have in common? I sat here with ChatGPT and I had some conversations. I gave her some theories. She gave me some theories. We shared a couple drinks. No, we didn't. All right, let's talk. Let's talk about this real quick. It says the music industry is currently undergoing a period of significant restructuring and upheaval. Here are some possible reasons for the recent layoffs at companies like Tidal, iHeart Media, and DistroKid, and the legal battles such as UMG's lawsuit against TuneCore. It says one reason this may be happening: revenue pressures and shifting consumption trends. There's a decline in subscription growth. Music streaming services are seeing slower growth in subscriptions. What's good with you DIYers, YouTube fam, and of course, independent artists alike? I got some really exciting news that I want to share with you. As many of you know, over the last 10 months, I have been doing some deep diving into going direct to consumer as an independent artist. And after reacting to so many different stories and having my own experiences, I've learned a lot over these last 10 months, and I would love to share it with you on my new Patreon for Curtis King TV. By joining the DIY community, you'll get early access to exclusive videos from this YouTube, free downloads, live Zoom calls, and even private Discord chats with me and the DIY community. Plus, independent artists, there are resources, tutorials, and so much more to help you level up your independent music career. So whether you're here for my content, for my music, or just to level up your own music career, I assure you this Patreon is for you. Head over to patreon.com/Curtis King TV and let's continue to show them what is possible independently. Could it be that many artists, by the multitudes, after seeing the direction of Spotify heads in and says, we're not going to pay you for that hard work that you're doing, even if we don't think that 1,000 streams annually is that significantly. Maybe the artists that are having their music removed at a record pace that they've never seen before, perhaps they're making the decision, we need to figure out how to take control of this, because we have no control when you're taking my whole album down. After I've gone through the process, I followed your rules, I got the artwork right, I did all these steps, and you still take it down. And then you don't give me any kind of communication. Could it be that now these folks have shifted their focus and their fans have gone along with them? I don't know. Too early to tell. This is the part that I wanted to highlight here. Shifts toward direct-to-consumer models. Direct artists to fan sales. We just talked about that right now. The growing trend of artists selling music and merchandise directly to fans is shifting revenue away from traditional streaming services and platform. This move challenges DSPs to remain relevant while also making them more reliant on top-tier artists. Check this out real quick. I saw this on my timeline. Shout out to Eric the Architect, who is an independent artist. He found a really interesting way to release his music. And we're talking about direct-to-consumer once again. And the way that he packaged this up, I thought was really dope. I went to his website. I thought this was super fire. Here's an example of an independent artist that is finding a different way to maneuver this chaos that is happening on that side by maneuvering a different way on this side. Check this idea out where he turns pretty much his album experience into a video game that you can play on an actual video game system. Crazy.
This is wild, man. Your own video game. Can't believe it. Nice plastic, secured. Let's open this thing up. Oh, wow. Ooh. Them details. I've never been here before. Eric the Architect. Let's play this shit. Turn this thing on. Come on, bruh. Woo! You turn that up.
So these are his songs that are now in 8-bit mode. Man, shout out to that.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
I know I threw a lot of information in the beginning of this video at you, some of which may discourage a lot of you. But if you're someone who's creative, such as this creative, this is an exciting time because we're going to be the ones in charge of redefining how the music experience should go. And why shouldn't it be us? Why are we giving that responsibility to people with marketing degrees who have never actually done the art? Right? And I'm not saying those with degrees don't have an extensive amount of knowledge to provide, but we should have always been in the lead of how we creatively present what we're doing. And now with having as much access as we have to business information and things that could help us build what we're doing, this is a perfect time. We have so much information at our disposal. I think this is a genius way to show your music off.
Punk ass, OG, and goated. Let's play a little bit. This is crazy. Hey, I'm a video game man. Look at that.
Insane.
Bro about to turn up. He put that shit on. Hey. Yeah, this when it get a little spicy, I'm not gonna lie. Oh shit, I'm getting washed by my own self.
That's an independent artist is doing that.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
There was a time period where the idea of that sounded absolutely ridiculous. Some other things that are at arm's length are things like this right here, man. Shout out to Eternal Vault. This is not any kind of a sponsored ad or any of the sort. I have not yet had a chance to go and invest into one of these, but you might have saw one of these. These are mini CDs that you're able to basically put as an independent artist. You put your music, upload it to their website, and you're actually able to sell these as physical merch, but you can put it up to a phone and it gives people access to streaming the music right from their device without needing any of the DSPs. Check this out, and I'm gonna show you somebody who found a lot of success independently by going this way. So in case you didn't catch that, this is what the device looks like. So it's small enough to fit on your keychain, and you could literally have access to your entire catalog on here. You can have access for your new project that you're working on, and you could give somebody access right then and there by tapping their phone, right? Or you could sell this and they could always have access to what's going on here. How are they making these? This is a company that is called ETRNL.app. King Elway, this ATL artist, made $30,000 independently within 2 months by selling 300 CDs at $100. The CD he used was the same Eternal app that I showed you before, the little mini CD. Check out what he says here in this interview with the Progress Report.
Putting it on, what is that? And is it, like, selling it for 100, like the Nipsey Hussle model? So let's talk about that.
Anybody who been rocking with me, they'll know that since the first project, even before Nip passed, I was a student of the game. You know what I mean? I put a lot of people on the Nip and his music. You know what I mean? I was just a student of the hustle already.
Yeah, you're right.
From the jump. So when I dropped So Soulful, I was selling $100 copies. You see what I'm saying? And I had $100 copies, I had $50 copies, I had $20 copies. I sold out of all of them probably 2 or 3 times. You know what I mean? Easy, just in the barbershop and in the restaurant. You see what I'm saying? So from there, it was like, damn, people really fucking with you. You really got something. People to spend their hard-earned money
100%.
to buy your art or buy what you're selling. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I tell that to a lot of artists. If you can't put your face or you can't put what you're doing on no type of merch, no type of shirt, no type of anything tangible, and actually sell it to the people,
100%.
and they spend a couple dollars with you, then
Yeah.
And you can't be afraid to sell. Shout out to King Elway.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Yes, you guys were making sure that you made sure that you were clarifying that it's a mini NFC CD by a company called Eternal.app. Now, whatever way that you want to approach this, the idea that music can be sold, the idea that people are out here ready to buy it, that's the bigger picture that I hope that you pull from this. And that the more creative that you get about this process, the more opportunity you give somebody to say, I never would have, what is that? You know what? I need to just buy that because I've never seen it before. Oh, boom, there it is. But I think that these are the type of things that give you a creative opportunity to compete as that other business, the streaming model that we've been so critical of over the last X amount of years, as it's going underneath its horrendous changes that seem to be wanting to eventually cut out the independent or have it to where you need to go through one of these major label turn distributors to get your music out there. Some of you may not even care about that. Some of us do. Then it's time to get creative. It's time to get creative and do what you do. I see a comment here talking about you can literally purchase the NFC stickers and wrap whatever you want. If that's the way that you want to utilize your creativity, by all means do it. I think that what they're giving here right here is a experience in itself, and that's something that you can't shortcut. And I think that's going to bite a lot of independent artists in the ass, is if you're looking for cheaper ways to do it, if you're looking for, well, you could just do this instead, find the creativity, find the idea within this that's beyond the idea. And I think that you'll find a lot of success in this, or at least give yourself an opportunity to be monetizing in a way that other folks are not. One more video that I wanted to react to before we end this out is something that I saw in this Bag Fuel interview with independent artists, Rome Streets, and Derringer. And they're talking about how there's a lot of independent artists that are making more income than a lot of the mainstream rappers that seem to be always in your face. And here he explains how that is even possible. Check this out.
You know, it depends on what you contend with, because everybody's not going to be the 100 million mega star. Most motherfuckers that feel like, yo, I don't want to do music if I'm not but you might be way more famous than you is rich. Like the nigga, it's a lot of niggas that ain't superstars that's eating,
Rich.
that's getting a bag off of fucking music, and you probably don't even know who they are. Cause most niggas want to get signed and be a artist where you could just get distribution and you could be good.
That cloud shit is
Cause at the end of the day, if you got fans, you can eat off of them.
fame in that. That's
Why not? I'm
that's
right here on that fuel. I
That's
can
the
walk around, niggas
500.
like, oh, you roam streets? I be signing autographs.
That's the 500. Yo, bro. Yo, bro.
What you want to do?
Bro, I'm gonna keep it so fat with you. I'm gonna keep it so fat with you, bro. Niggas want to take pictures with us. We got 100,000 followers. That ain't nothing crazy. Niggas walk around and act like that we famous. We getting money. When I came in this shit, I told them the first thing. Nobody knew me. They knew him. I did not give two flying fucks. I didn't give a fuck. I swear to God. I was like, yo, how we gonna make money? When this nigga called me, the first day he called me, said, hey, yo, we got an interview with these dudes. I said, damn. I said, where we going? But bro, he said, yeah, it's paid. They paying us? Yeah. This is my shit.
We're in a different time. We're in a different time. And that's the bigger point that I want to get at. Some of this shit is looking rather chaotic. UMG suing Believe, who owns TuneCore, for $500 million. It seems like UMG this entire year, especially when you think back to how they treated the situation with TikTok, they've been on the offensive. They've been finding ways to cut out folks who will potentially be competition to what their future plans are. I wouldn't be surprised that if some point in time UMG doesn't find issues with a splice, right? The website Splice, where a lot of producers find their sounds from, that they're able to use royalty free and they're able to put into songs. I would not be surprised, and I feel like that's part of what UMG is doing with their website that has royalty-free sounds that you can use, right? The thing that they did in once they pulled their music off of TikTok and they decided to build pretty much their own music licensing website, it wouldn't surprise me if websites like that wouldn't become the next. And I feel like that's just what happens during times of economic struggle, during times where companies are restructuring, laying people off. I think a lot of people end up being in the crosshairs. Just make sure, independent artists, that it's not you. I give you this information so you know what's going on and that you start to see it is no longer just an option to have a direct-to-consumer option. It is a requirement. If you plan on making a living as an independent artist, take it from a DIYer myself, this is a necessity to what you're doing. But a part of this is going to be that age-old struggle that creatives have of, do I desire fame more than actual success? Do I want to look like success more than I actually attain success? If you can also get away from that fear that so many creatives have that I shouldn't be selling my art, if I plan on, if I say that I love this art, I should do it for free. And I think a lot of people struggle with that and they shouldn't. We're in a time period where that is for the survival of your business, first of all. Because if you're not making money off of your music, somebody else is. And you're the one that created it. Why shouldn't it be you? DIYers, those are some of my thoughts. You let me know what you think. DIYers, if you enjoyed this content, make sure that you hit the like button and maybe even consider subscribing. Come on, man. Stop being greedy. Peace.